energy, huh?
We are on. We made it. Finally.
We did. So we were just navigating some technical difficulties, but we're here. We're ready for it. And, we can't expect anything less with the Gemini moon. So thank you guys so much for being here today. I have my dear friend, Margie Kirschner, here with us today. And I'm so excited for her to share her message and her story and all of those wonderful things. So Margie, if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. In fact, I can't believe it's been an entire year since we first met. Like that to me just blows me away. Thinking about, where we were last year, where we are now. And I mean, I don't even think I would have gotten on a Zoom call with someone a year, let alone, be on a live. But that's the power of growth and just kind of leaning into your truth and your purpose. And that's honestly what brings me here today. I said I wanted to come on and share about my eating disorder because really for me, that was kind of like the launching point. It's like we hear all the time things like your mess is your message, or like the breakdown's the breakthrough. All of these things about like really getting into the trenches and just kind of being stripped down to like raw everything. It's like that was the place for me where I felt like I didn't have, truly anything to stand for at that point, because my eating disorder took away so much from me. I wasn't able to, I couldn't hold down a job. I wasn't able to do well in school. I couldn't have relationships with other people because I was too busy hiding who I was. And, just this protection of you can't let anyone in. You have this big dark secret. And, it just kind of got me to that point where it was like the only thing that I could recognize was everything that was within me, not the things that I was able to use as far as accomplishment or titles or relationships with others. I couldn't hide behind any of those things. And so, after therapy and kind of working through the issues that I had, I started to realize that the entire time, the only thing that I was doing was projecting. I was really just trying to put on this face of what I thought other people wanted me to look like, or how, my interactions should be based off what the other person was seeking from me. And it really came down to me just recognizing that what I was searching for was inside of me the entire time. And I couldn't see any of it because I was too busy trying to put on this look of what society expects a woman to be, or who my parents wanted me to be growing up, or teachers, or just relationships to friends, and feeling that I had to fit into this social group. And it was just so much of this outside and trying to find my way to fit in, and not realizing that we come here raw, whole, and perfect. And when you are stripped down and you have nothing to stand behind except your own truth, that's when you really get the opportunity to see yourself and feel good about it just being, not becoming anything, just being. And so it really was a horrible place to be in, but it makes me grateful because I know that allowing myself to completely be stripped and raw and fall apart and know that I can't hide behind anything forced me to have to go within. And it's been a beautiful process. I truly wish for anyone the opportunity to be able to meet your soul and go within and just honestly wrap yourself up in so much self-love, and know that the fulfillment that you seek, you can give it to yourself anytime, any day, every morning when you wake up. It's all yours. It's all yours. So
isn't that beautiful? And do you mind me asking, how old were you when you got your eating disorder?
Yeah, so my first episode was what I assumed at age 16, because that was the first time that I purged. So it started what I thought was bulimia. However, after really kind of looking back and going through some therapy, I recognized that, those patterns actually begun around age 13, 14. And what it was at that time was actually overeating. And so regardless of the act of what we think is like you're starving or you're purging, like that's the only eating disorders that, it's not. Like you can eat your feelings. It's all of these things that you're doing to use as a coping mechanism. It went unnoticed for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
No, it's fine. And it just, it was better for me to really realize that on my own and not think that, again, we have to label something. It doesn't have to look a certain way to be considered a disorder. You don't have to think like, oh, well, I'm not, a size 0 and 99 pounds emaciated. I don't really have an eating disorder. And I think that sometimes we put the stigma on these things, that disorders have to look a certain way, or trauma has to look a certain way, or sound a certain way when someone's talking about it. But we all have our own way of dealing with things. And there is really no one way of defining somebody's experience. So it started at 14, and, it just slowly took over. And what started as something that I felt was a form of control, me controlling this input output, with my food, really manifested into losing complete control of my life. And, there were days when I would wake up in the morning and just like one fold of skin on my stomach when I would go to use the bathroom in the morning, the entire day is ruined. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. We're not talking to anyone today. Today is not a good day. And, getting to this point where it just felt like when I reach this size, or, when I'm able to like fit into this form, this jeans, okay, these pair of jeans, I remember very, very specifically that they were a size 24, and Kate Moss is a 24. So, that's the epitome of a woman. You have to be a size 24. And it was just this goal. I was passing out all over the place, gray in my skin. Everyone was very concerned. Their concern would irritate me. They were trying to get into my business. They wanted to control me. They don't know what's right for me. Just so much of not being able to see where I was, it was just, it overtook everything. And by the time I was able to wear those jeans, I remember being completely dissatisfied. And this, like, I can actually feel the energy in my body now. It was like this, like, crushing on my chest, where it was like, you're never going to be happy. Nothing is ever going to make you happy. This was the thing. We thought this was the thing. We got here, and now what? You're nothing. It's just, it was a very sad time where I just became so skewed on this one focal point and put all of my attention and energy into this thing, this attaining something for myself, as simple and silly as it may have been. It was everything to me. And I think that we do that in life with a lot of other things. I don't think it necessarily even has to relate back to an eating disorder. I think that so many of us put pressure on ourselves to get to where we're going. And that is it. That's the thing. But it's not. It's the experience. It's the journey. It's the learning and the growing. How many of us get to some, place that we thought was like the epitome for us, and we were so just bogged down the entire time that we were getting there, we didn't even enjoy the process. And by the time it happens, it's like, ugh, I was so freaking done with that thing. I'm just burnt out, and it's whatever.
Right.
It happens,
True. And I can relate to that. Like, I wouldn't say I had an eating disorder, but when I first started doing Thrive and working out, like, I was obsessed.
I know.
Like, every day for 2 years doing HIIT workouts, like, that's insanity, but I didn't want to, like, I was searching for that thing. And then when I got there, just like you said, I was like, okay.
It's not great.
No.
You felt so shitty the whole time. It's just not great. And also, we're not even meant to do the same things every single day. Like our bodies are cyclical. So, that's honestly something that I have really embraced, especially, I know before we went on live and we started talking about it, and I said I totally took a long nap today. There are days when my body's craving rest, and that's totally okay. But before, I would have told myself, you're lazy, you can't accomplish anything, this house is a mess. Just anything that we can do, we have this little voice inside of our brains that puts so much pressure on us, to accomplish things and to keep on pushing. Yeah. And if you can't feel good with yourself for just like being so in love with who you are every single day and not needing to prove yourself to anyone, accomplish anything, or have any plaque on the wall, that's where we need to be.
Right.
And it feels so good to be able to share comfortably, and not worry about, like, when you sent your email today and said, like, don't worry about preparing anything, like, just be you. it really struck me because 2 years ago when I started my women's boutique, the tagline was just be you. I know.
I think we're soul sisters.
It was so cool because that for me was a time where I was just like, I want to do this thing. And I don't care that I don't have a fashion background. And, you know, I don't care that someone else is doing it this way or that way. Like I really would like to pursue this passion, you know, and I think to not get off completely on topic here, but some of us feel like we have to follow this certain path and we can't do something because it's not in line with what we've been doing, or it doesn't really, you don't know where you're going. It's like, why is she doing this thing? Like, where are we going with this? Well, I don't know. I was just jazzed up about it and I really wanted to give it a try. Like, is that cool with you? You know? Yeah. But I used to do that to myself where I'm like, well, it's not in the plan and it doesn't exactly have an end goal. So, you know what I mean? It's like just worrying about what other people are going to think constantly. But if you're lit up by something and you want to try it, then you should, because you probably learn something more useful to use, you know, for something later on if it wasn't going to end where you thought it was going, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And, and want to make sure that you drop your boutique link too, because there's nothing better than putting on an outfit and being like, damn.
Well, and, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, if that is what made you feel good about yourself that day and like ready to like go out there and like, okay, for instance, this is one of my jackets. Like this was one of my jackets. And it was like, for me, I put it on and I just thought, oh, cool. Like this feels really good. It gave me that little boost, you know, or the earrings that are mine or just anything like that. And if we are doing things to help ourselves feel good, whether it's like that tea that you poured this morning that you like frothed the milk for and like sprinkled on your cinnamon and you sat down in your cozy socks, that's not bougie. It's for you. Do things that make yourself feel good, whatever it may be.
Exactly.
So
exactly. And I want to talk too, because you have such a beautiful family.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. And I feel like a lot of the women who are going to watch this are mothers. And we all know what happens to our bodies when we incubate children for 9 months. Like our bodies do really weird things and they end up, you know, parts end up where they weren't before.
Completely.
Was that hard for you? Like, did you feel all of that eating disorder stuff come back after?
It came back very, very hard with the first one. Yeah. And I think the reason it came back so hard with the first one is because I got pregnant with him really when I was in the middle of, you know, one of the dark times with my eating disorder. And so I put all of my love and reason for being here into being his mother.
Yeah.
And it truly saved me. And honestly, I used to pray. I prayed to God from the time I was 18 until 23 when I finally, you know, had him. God, give me a baby. I promise if you give me a baby, I will just do everything that I can for this child. I promise. I needed someone that felt like they were mine and that they would see me and love me the way that I knew I deserved to see myself. But I had been around so many people for so long in relationships and family and things like that, that again, you know, kind of going back to what I said earlier, I was just playing off what I thought they might want to see from me. I felt like it was my chance to start over, but I also felt at the time that it would give me an identity. And that's not what we should do as mothers, because if we put everything into our children and we allow our persona to be mom, then we're not Margie or whomever else is listening, you know? And that's what happened, I think, honestly, with my own mother with empty nest syndrome, where it was like, you just put so much into your kids and they're everything to you. And, you know, yes, I understand that we give a lot to our children, but if we lose our sense of self throughout that experience, one, that's not healthy for the child, because then they feel for you. In conversation with my kids, like I try not to say things like, it would make mommy. It's these languages that we use that's really making them think, well, everything I do has to be, you know, for someone else and make them feel a certain way. But, you know, after after the birth of my first son, I went right back into those restrictive behaviors where, because I wasn't purging, I thought, oh, well, it's not an eating disorder anymore. I'm just working out. I'm just taking him for a jog. Okay. But now when I'm actually looking at those patterns, it was, you can't eat dinner unless you've gone on a 2-mile jog. You know what I mean? Yeah. You don't deserve to be able to go, to this outing with other people because you don't look good in the outfit that you had picked out, and now nothing fits. And so it really is just like, well, I needed to go shopping. We make these excuses up. No, it's more than that. It's not. If you have a closet full of clothes and you can't put one of those things on and feel that you have to buy something new every single time there's an event, it's probably time to sit down with yourself. I'm sorry, but it is. And we don't pay attention to ourselves enough when these things are coming up. And me saying that I can't have dinner unless I've gone for a jog, for a jog is me saying that like I have to earn my calories, or that I'm saving my calories for dinner. And those are not healthy habits, and they can really spiral out of control. So it took a long time to really start recognizing those things. But once I slowed down and became more mindful, I could hear my inner thoughts and understand that my intuition was really sending me messages, and my experience and the feelings that I was having, there was something for me to see that was beyond that. I'm not just in a bad mood today. I'm upset because there's more going on here. And if I don't slow down enough to take a look at it, then I won't know,
Yeah. It's so easy to mask, to numb ourselves.
Totally.
That's one thing I've really learned as I've looked inward, because it sucks. Inner work is not fun.
No, it hurts.
It hurts really, really bad. And I think a lot of people are scared to revisit that pain.
Right.
Or what is that going to do for me? Or, like that's going to make me look weak or vulnerable, or, and it's the farthest thing from the truth. When you show.
Right. Because we hear terms like.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's just, it reminds me of like growing up when we hear terms like, just like sweep it under the rug, or like, just leave that in the past. The past is the past. Why can't you get over anything? Stuff like that. And it's really what's happening is, while it sounds horrible to revisit a traumatic memory, there's something that happens when you revisit that memory. You have the opportunity to change your perception of that memory at any given time. You can see yourself experiencing it from the view of who you've evolved to. And honestly, I'll be dead honest. You can't revisit every single memory. Your way of seeing it, you get to a point where it's time for you to revisit. And that's what happens with healing. We are like peeling back like an onion, all of these layers, little thing after little thing. And you have gotten to that point of growth and that awakened state that's ready to revisit that next memory. So honestly, give your traumatic memories like a giant hug and be like, wow, I'm so proud of myself. Like, I'm ready to do this. I can see this now. That means that I've done enough work to get to this point. It's good for me that it's time for me to see this. And the universe is here. Oh, someone says hello.
Hello.
Hello. And the universe is here to guide you there, because we are going through these experiences so that we can take away something from that experience and maybe help somebody else, or at least help our own personal evolvement. Everything has a purpose on our journey. And when those memories are painful, it can be really hard for people, because it's like, why did this happen to me? And the victim mode and blaming other people. I know when I was in therapy that a lot of what I experienced from the side of the therapist was kind of, who can we blame? Well, right. Your mom did this, and does she restrict her food at dinner? How present is your father? Have you spent time with him? Does he tell you he loves you? And like all of these things where it's like, was that helpful for me? No. I don't need to blame somebody else and find something to pin somebody on to be able to deal with the things that I went through. Those were my experiences. And I have a role as the person who's dealing with that trauma to understand, what I can take away from it and how I can help myself heal. I don't need to blame somebody else. It doesn't help us let go. It doesn't.
No.
And we heal generational trauma every single time that we revisit one of those wounds. You know, maybe I was carrying that from my own mother, and maybe it's time for me to break that generational curse, you know, and I'm the one that's going to show the rest of them and my own daughter that we don't have to feel this way anymore. We no longer have to put on persona to be this woman that's a certain size or carries herself in a way. You know what I mean? It's just so much growth and power when you really get down to the nitty gritty, you know?
And a lot of it, you don't even realize. I know for myself, I just became so numb to any bit of emotion, and I still get uncomfortable sitting in it. Like today I was super emotional, and it's uncomfortable for me. Like I want to just hide, and I don't want to feel it. I don't like pain, but then I have to remind myself, no, this is when the work happens. This is when the growth happens.
Right.
And so I think your message is just so beautiful, because even if someone hears your message and they don't have, per se, an eating disorder, you better believe that they're going to be able to relate to something that you say about healing and past trauma, that it's going to spark something for them. And I think we don't view our lives or our challenges as being a big deal. Like, oh, big deal.
No, and that's what I meant earlier when I'm saying, like, do I have to attach the stigma of having an eating disorder just to say that I went through trauma? That's my point, is that someone else, whatever experience that they had, it impacted them in a way that they have to revisit that memory and heal from that place. That's enough for me. We don't have to know anymore. And we don't have to put it on ourselves. Well, my situation wasn't bad enough. I didn't have it hard enough. You know, why am I over here crying about it? Comparing our struggles to other people and needing, like, it's like needing someone else's suffering to validate your own, or to make you feel, you know, that there's a reason for you to feel sad for yourself too. We don't need to do that anymore. And that's one of those things where it's like, when you're a kid and you would hear, like, you need to finish eating all of your food because there's starving children in Africa.
Right.
So we're telling our children that they should be grateful because someone else is suffering. When we do that, it's unhealthy, because it's teaching us that the only reason that we should be grateful is because someone else has it worse off than we do. Who are we to judge? It's not for me to judge. My experience, and maybe that child is happy with the food that they've been given, you know, or that the toy that they got is great to them. Why am I saying that they're less than I am, and that's going to make me feel better?
Exactly. Totally.
It's wrong.
And it's these little things that have been passed down year after year after year after year after year.
Yeah, I hear you.
We don't even. And I think that's, 2020 has been a year. It has been a year. But I saw Gary Vee posted a meme that said, don't hate the year that you woke up.
Right. There's this shirt, and I did carry it. This sweater, 2020, the year that I learned to be grateful, for everything that I have. That for us, a lot of us have stripped down, like what I was talking about earlier, where it's like the fuss is gone, the hustle and the going out and the social experiences, and maybe all those pictures that you would have posted of yourself on social media, going out and about and here and there and everywhere, and the trips and all those things, the highlight reel that you want to run. Well, now I'm just like sitting at home. So what am I going to post about, And that has been so amazing, because we get to see people for who they really are. And people are beginning to see themselves, because once you take yourself outside of that busy hustle and you're slowed and maybe even a little broke if you haven't had a great year financially, it really forces you to go within to see and not be like feeding yourself all of these experiences and these accolades that we think are who we are.
Right.
It's not that.
It's not.
It's a persona, and you have to drop it and get down to it and do that nasty, uncomfortable crying that you talked about today, where it's like, it sucks. Yeah, of course it sucks. But freeing yourself and allowing yourself to really get down to it and not need to say or attach anything to the reason that you're crying. You know what? I just felt like crying today. I just felt like taking a nap today. Let it go. There is stagnant energy sitting on our bodies all the time. We have to release it. That's why we have to revisit our traumas, because they're going to stay there as a shadow that blocks us from any growth until we open up and let the light pour in. It's just what needs to happen.
Totally.
And it's beautiful, you know?
Tell me if you relate to this. I feel like a big hurdle that I got over like the snowball effect. I feel like I was waiting for the snowball effect for like years. And when it finally hit was when I stopped blaming everything else around me except, and I know you kind of mentioned this before, but I want to touch on it because I think a lot of people don't necessarily know what that feels like to not put the blame out there. So what would be your question that you would ask yourself to kind of
find out what you're doing?
Yeah.
Well, I think it really kind of comes back to the decisions that we make. It's, and I actually touch on this in my Conscious Mothering workshop that I've done, which promo is available for $23 today.
Not the link, sister.
Anyway, it really helps us to identify, and this is good for anybody that thinks the snowball effect or the blaming. It's like the decisions that you're making, were you making those decisions for yourself or for someone else? So are you making decisions based off of your own core values or off of these generational values that you have been brought up with, or the values of the neighborhood that you live in, or the set of friends that you have, or perhaps something that your husband is pinning on you and you just didn't want to have an argument? So it really comes down to this conscious decision making that we have in our lives and understanding, like, where is this coming from? And if you don't take the time to really understand your own core values, then you'll always be making decisions based off somebody else. And that is when you're going to blame, because you will blame them since you did it for them to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
So if you don't make decisions for you and from here, it's always going to be somebody else's fault, because you're pissed that you didn't get a chance to listen to yourself anyways.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But you have to slow down and be mindful, and you have to revisit all of that stuff that's gunking you down and clear it all away and transmute it into a higher level of energy, or it's just going to sit there and it's going to weigh you down and you're going to be the victim forever.
Yeah.
It's true. God. And it's not fun. And victim mode shows up for me all the time. You know, I mean, it's still here even while I'm healing. And that's because, you know, it's just layers. It's layers. And when we want to manifest new things in our lives, you know, we think like we want to attract all of these amazing experiences. And then like you set a goal and you want to manifest something, and all of a sudden like shitty stuff starts happening to you more and more and more and more. And you're triggered by everything in your environment. And you're like, manifestation for me, you know, like those are just like magical wishes that I'm set. Actually, you're being sent exactly what you need to heal and feel and clear away that stuff. You're getting triggered, so it's coming up for you so that you can release it to raise your vibration to the level that you need for what it is that you want to attract. It's all happening for us. Everything I've been saying for the last several years. Yes. Hello. You know, like we are not victimized here. This stuff is happening for us to help us, you know? Yeah. And it can be little things. It could be such little things. Like somebody cut you in the line at the bank and you're like, everyone is so entitled here. And the way that that person is dressing, like she's so full of herself, and, you know, her husband probably pays for all of her stuff, and look at her with her nice handbag, and poor little me, and thinks that she's better than I am. Look at all that's going on in here in your brain. That person took one little step in the wrong direction and you went off on a tangent. You need to work on your perception, you know, and it happens. But if we're not awake and paying attention, we won't see all of those messages.
Totally.
So.
And I want to touch on Reiki too, because you're master Reiki. How has that helped you both in your healing and with your clients?
For me personally, just understanding myself as an energetic being is huge, because I can see my relation to everything outside of me and understand the form that things take and understand myself in my form, because I am able to like hold things within myself. So if I want to make space for things, make space for other people, be intentional about the way that I'm interacting with them, I have to be able to recognize, can I hold space for that? And so it's right back to that healing that we need, because if we're holding on to all the stagnant energy inside of ourselves, we can't have space for all of that beautiful light to enter in. And so for me, Reiki was what opened the doors to seeing that like everything is energy, and, you know, experiencing that really heightened in tune level of enlightenment. I mean, it's been amazing. And as far as connection to my clients, I feel that I can truly see them, you know, because I appreciate myself and what's going on internally and in relation to the, you know, entire universe. And it just, everyone is so beautiful when you think of it that way. Everything is so beautiful. Everything is so intentionally placed here right now. It's just a matter of how aware is that individual of their presence.
I love it. I love energy work. It's like, we were watching the Joe Rogan Experience. I don't know if you've ever.
No, but I'll look afterwards.
They were talking about how the universe is created on 2 simple rules or something. I'm going to butcher it because I was half asleep. It was all about how everything's so simple, but then it like multiplies and multiplies and multiplies and multiplies, and it can be, you know, from a microscopic level. And when you think of that, you can let go of the control that you're trying to put on your life and everyone else's life around you. Mm-hmm. It's not up to us. We can only do what we can do.
Totally. And actually, that's a really beautiful thing that you share, because when you think about like healing and the experience of other people and the control that we put on things, so we are here on our own individual journey. We are not here to put things onto other people. Whatever it is that someone is going through, while we might want to be the martyr and save them or fix something for them or tell them, this is exactly what you should be doing. I've already done this. Let me let you know. It's not for me. You'll know when you have a place on somebody's path. But being able to be intentional and aware of your own journey allows you to look at someone else and see that they too have an experience that they're going through. And it's not for me to change that. And we can't. We can't. We only make it harder on them when we try to fix everything or do everything for them.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah.
So,
and what a relief too. Like, who was
actually
having to fix
not for me. That's on you, girl.
I'll hold the space for you to look within and feel safe and loved. But when it comes to like, I love that. Because when I first started like doing online coaching, I thought I had to fix everyone, you know? So I had like unconscious pressure of, what if they don't get to where they want to be after they work with me? Or what if this doesn't, it's not up to me to choose which way they go.
Totally.
And I think that makes the relationship even more beautiful. You know?
And it actually allows that person to see that they have their own free will. Mm-hmm. And so I have a motherhood collective. And one of the things that I put on my landing page, which I really thought about what you just said, where I said, this is a journey where no one can tell you where you're going.
Yeah.
And that's because we get so used to seeing the sales page that says, afterwards, you can expect to have.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you mean? Like, you can't tell me what's going to happen or why I would want to invest in this, because I can't. It's not for me to decide. You're on your own journey. That's the beauty of it. The resources are here. We're all here to share, you know, authentic space with one another, and whatever unfolds for you is exactly what's meant for you. And I think that that is the most beautiful part of our entire journey, is that we get the choice. We decide. Yeah. So I hear you on that one big time. And the coaching world puts pressure because there is this mold, whether or not we want to say it, there is, you know,
especially lately.
Well, that's the end of year 2020. Everyone wanting to hit their goals. But I mean, you know, for me, even like I do virtual doula work. Okay. So as a virtual doula, most of the mothers that come to me want to experience a natural birth. That's something that I really pride myself on being able to coach, because there's this truth within ourselves that we have to understand, feel fully safe, and, really want to have this experience. But it's the free will of that individual if that's the birth that they're choosing. So I almost sometimes don't like to say that it's birth coaching, because I'm not coaching you to fit into this type of birth. I'm allowing you to release the fears that are holding you back from fully going into that experience. Because that's what it is. It's all internalized fear. And so we're taking that along with us to this birth experience, and that fear is going to come up in some form of a trigger, whether it's not being able to tell the doctor that you didn't want this type of intervention, or whether it's not being able to communicate effectively with your partner because you don't feel safe expressing yourself, and maybe the way that he's touching you isn't helpful, but you don't want to tell him. And now you're not getting the relief that you would have if you just actually had the conversation about, hey, when you touch me like this, like, it doesn't help. But you have to feel comfortable and safe with someone. And so working through, all of that fear and programming that we carry around with us, it really liberates us to be able to have this free experience. And so, I think I was just given the greatest gift by being ill with an eating disorder, because for me, I wouldn't have recognized any of this if I didn't have to unpack all that baggage,
It's so true. It's so true. And it's not even like you coach women on who have eating disorders. It's so much bigger than that, because we all have our story, and it's all simple.
And I thought originally that this was something that I would have to coach on, where it's like, well, that's the experience I went through. I should be teaching this because that's the experience that I had. And it's kind of, that stigma of coaching where, I came out of the trenches of my eating disorder and now I can help you do the same thing. It doesn't have to be like that, We're just allowed to feel and heal whatever we went through, So, yeah.
Lady, I am so grateful for you in my life.
You too.
I've known you, and this is the first time we're talking.
I know, but it doesn't feel like this is the first time we're talking. I remember when we shared our avatars,
Yeah.
Do you remember that felt really good, because I put mine out there and I didn't think that anyone else would even look at it. And then you immediately put yours together and shared yours. And that was for me the eye opener, where I was like, wow, it feels really good to share. We're all just kind of like waiting for someone to be like, hey, I get you,
Yes. Yeah. And you're safe and you're loved and you're supported here. And, that's our mission, at the end of the day, that's what we're here to do, is to help people you are great just the way you are. Here's how.
Well, and, for me, it's like understanding that we're not here to become something, and we don't have to carry on this, this thing that we've left behind, this legacy. Every little touch that we have with one another, every interaction, it means something to the other person. And we don't have to be able to see it on their face or hear it spoken from their lips or receive that acknowledgement or anything in exchange. We don't need that. They take from us what we need, and we take from them what we need. And it's just this collective journey, and it's beautiful.
Well, I want to thank you again so much for being here with me. And can you share where these
beautiful offer
yeah, because I know that people are feeling this energy.
Good. I'm mostly on Instagram, so that's where my collective exists. I do have my private space on Mighty Networks, and so it is an app that's fully separate from Facebook or Instagram. The reason for that is because I just wanted a reprieve for all of us, that we could kind of disconnect from social media and connect in a space that's private. And you can share as little or as often as you like. There's no pressures. There's no theme days. It's commitment free. So, perfect for the ones that like to be flaky sometimes, because hello, I am so like that sometimes.
Yeah, I think we all just have
I committed to this, though. I did.
I know. And I was like, oh, internet, you are not going out. I go through this emotional roller coaster to get on live video. And
yeah, you brought your wonky energy, and the full moon meets you there.
Everything is divine timing.
Yes. Actually, I ended up doing some writing in my journal while we were having all those issues.
Yeah.
So it was intentional time for me to slow down. And I thought, wow, this feels really good, because now I can, look back at what I felt before we started. And how I feel now having spoken my truth. Because honestly, for anyone listening, like when we open up our voice and we speak our truth and we let that out, we're healing ourselves one little word at a time. Sometimes we don't know what we're feeling until we have a conversation with somebody else. You know, healing can happen when you're writing it down. Healing can happen when you're talking to someone else. It's not always this internal process of like, I'm just going to sit down and meditate and it's all going to come flowing in. No, like that's what I mean about us sharing interactions with one another. We need people, you know? So
I love these so much. Like, yes, I was doing them twice a week and I'm like, nope, I'm going 5 days. If they fill, they fill. If they don't, they don't. Because
live therapy with Justine.
I'll just hold the space and run and listen to your story, because that's really what fuels my soul. It's like, I can see it. It's just,
you definitely made me feel safe coming on. So I applaud you for that so much.
Well, I'm going to have you back on again.
Okay. See what's going on. Oh, and also my magazine came out today, my holiday magazine. Yeah. Just going to throw it. Yes, it is a collaborative magazine with 8 other women, and we have all shared our gifts, our light, and our truth. And it's to make you be able to get through the holiday season with gratitude and peace and joy. It's just a different take on what you would see for the holidays. It's not, pitching sales and things like that. It's truly to find a little piece of your soul. So I hope that everyone will want to check that out, and I'll be dropping that as well. So yeah, lots of fun things going on with Unashamed Mama.
Absolutely. You are changing the world, my friend.
Thanks. You too.
Love it.
You.
Well, and I will put all of your links in the YouTube show notes as well.
Okay.
So I'll wait for you to post, and then I'll transfer them to whatever, because I think we're on 6 platforms right now.
Oh, wow. I thought we were on 2. So hey,
no, we're even on Twitch.
Watching. Amazing.
You heard of Twitch?
No, but my son probably knows what Twitch is. Is this Peyton's idea?
No, it was Gary V's. Gary V's like, you need to get on Twitch. And I was like, all right, Gary.
Well, we're there. Cool.
So
I will drop everything below, and I look forward to connecting with everyone afterwards. So thank you so much.
Thank you, my love. And we'll chat soon.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Beautiful
night,
everyone. Happy full moon to you.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.